All right, we're at Itad Summit 2024 at the Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami, Florida, and I'm with Bob Lafon of Capital Growth Partners. I'm so excited to finally sit down with you and do one of these interviews. At Mobile Disrupt, we didn't have a chance because you're busy running the show, and so we didn't get a chance. But here at the Itad Summit, we were able to find a couple minutes, and really grateful for your time. I'm glad you were able to come out.
Absolutely, my pleasure. This is going to be a lot of fun. We spend a lot of time working one-on-one with clients and don't get the opportunity too often to tell our own story about how we've become who we are and what we're doing to try and help people in the space succeed. So appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about the role Capital Growth Partners plays, specifically in the Itad industry, but also in the mobile space where, you have a little bit of a larger presence, although you're pretty present here as well. So,
yeah, absolutely. Well, we're a business advisory firm. Some people tend to think of us as consultants. We tend to bristle at that word consulting because consulting as a broader industry has taken on a bit of a rough reputation because too often they'll send people in, do a lot of interviews, accumulate a lot of data, and then basically hand that back to the client with the client having to try and figure out, what am I supposed to do with this? In our case, we do go on site. We do an in-depth analysis of the organization. We come back, review that data with our team. There's 16 of us total, so we review that in totality, formulate a strategy and a recommendation, and go back to the client and say, this is what we see, this is what we recommend, this is how we would recommend working with you if you choose to engage us. But in our case, we get in the weeds. We're not going to do it for the client. So if you're a client, we're not going to go do the work for you. We will do it with you.
right.
And we will do it with you as if we were a part of your organization, working with you day in and day out to help you achieve the success points you're looking for. So we very much get in the weeds. We are very hands-on in the work that we do with clients. In whether it's Itad or mobile, there are some things that are very much in common right now. A lot of these organizations are good operators. They have really solid operations. They perform well. Their clients like what they get in those relationships. But sometimes they are lacking in knowledge in areas such as sales strategy or marketing strategy. I see this all the time. WTS, WTB, what to sell, want to buy.
Right.
It's not a strategy. And it's not a great methodology either. And it also basically reduces everything to price point. So there's no additional value other than price.
Right.
That's a hard way to make a living. And with increased competition, margins are shrinking year after year after year, and it's making it harder and harder for people to do business. So we get a lot of calls from people wanting to source more product, and they'll say, hey, can you help us source product? Say, why? Well, our margins have shrunk, and we need to offset that margin loss through volume. And I say, then buy a grocery store. And they look at me puzzled. I said, grocers have tiny, tiny margins, but make good money off of huge volumes, and they seldom go out of business. I said, but if you want to try and apply that same model in Itad or in mobile, no, you can't. You won't sustain it. You won't scale it. It might last you a few more years, but you're never going to be able to get enough supply to offset the margin loss because the margin loss will only continue. Products commoditize, competition presses margins down, new product releases drive margins down. That's reality. You need a new strategy. You need to modernize your business and reinvent how you do what you do so that you stay relevant in the marketplace and have a future. That's what we do for clients.
And what does that modernization look like?
I'll give you an example. The last meeting I had before I came here and sat down with you, a client came to us and said, hey, we're in the buyback space. We've been buying phones, tablets, laptops, gaming consoles for years, do minor grade up repairs and resell them. I said, how's that working for you? It's not. That's why we're here talking to you. We need help. I said, well, tell us about what's working and what's not. And what's not working is they're not only having the supply issue everybody else is selling, they're having the margin issue everybody else is having trouble doing, or I'm sorry, having trouble addressing, and they're looking for what's next. They're saying, how can we modify this business? And I said, can I tell you a story? And they said, sure. I said, have you ever heard of Dunkin' Donuts? Well, of course. I said, it's no longer called Dunkin' Donuts, it's called Dunkin'. I said, they started out as a donut business. When they got to a point where that business was really strong, they added other products along with that, like bagels and things of that nature, breakfast-type foods that people would eat. So they went into bagels. Then they added coffee. And they did so well with their brand of coffee that they were even winning business against Starbucks, where people shifted from Starbucks and went to Dunkin' to get coffee. They liked it that much. And they continued over the course of time, adding new products to a point that they're now a restaurant business. They have drive-thrus and sit-down dining options in some of the locations. They've dropped donuts from the name, and they are Dunkin'.
Right.
No longer Dunkin' Donuts. It's a progression. I said, the same thing needs to happen in this business. I said, so there needs to be a progression looking at what's next. And I said, you can look at additional products that are complementary and do the same thing with those, but eventually the same thing will happen. So you can keep going horizontally, adding more products, or you can look at services. Services seldom commoditize. Services can also be done under contract and generate recurring revenues, which gives you value. Because at some point in time, I said to these folks, I said, I'm assuming you want to retire someday. They said, yeah, we're in our 50s. We'd like to retire in 10 or 15 years. And said, okay, well, we need to build a strategy that gives you the chance to scale your business, keep it relevant, and put you in a position where someday you can sell it and retire.
Right.
I said, as opposed to wait until it closes up and have nothing to show for it.
Right. So pivoting a little bit, right? We talked about your role in the Mobile Disrupt Show, and obviously you're here at Itad Summit. What is it about these shows and these industries that is so important for you to be, obviously Mobile Disrupt as a co-founder of that show? You're there anyway, but you still have a presence with Capital Growth Partners. You have a booth. You bring several of your other partners are there. They're here. Why is it that you find the need to invest in a program, in an event like this?
Our combined team has worked in Itad, recycling, mobility, wireless, in some form or fashion. We've all been involved in these adjacent spaces for years. We've fallen in love with the space and have built many, many wonderful relationships in the space. The good news for us is we've all had our great careers. Our careers are largely behind us now as we're in our 50s, 60s, and 70s. So we've already kind of achieved our successes and lived out that part of our lives. What feels wonderful is to get up every day and be able to work with good people and help them achieve their dreams. A very quick story, a gentleman who he participates in both mobility and Itad in his business. He's able to serve both constituencies. A year ago, I was at a conference with him. We were going to meet for breakfast, and as he's walking towards me, I put my hand out to shake his hand. He brushed my hand aside and gave me a big bear hug. And I sensed he was a little upset or emotional, so I kind of pushed him back, looked at his eyes, and said, "What's going on here?" He said, "I'm 65 years old. I just bought my first house. And I didn't just buy any house. I bought my dream house. And you guys were a big part of why I was able to do that." That broke my heart. To first think that a 65-year-old was just buying his first home ever just was heartbreaking to me. But what was deeply rewarding was when he said that we were a big part of helping him to be able to do that.
Yeah.
That's worth getting up for every single day. And I will continue to get up every single day and help people like that to be able to achieve their dreams and have that quality of life that they're looking for. That's worthwhile. That's worthwhile. And I'll keep doing that as long as I'm able to do it.
And, I have to agree with you, being on the team that puts on these events, we get to hear all the stories of, all the success. We hear the complaints too, right? We get a few of those.
Oh, that goes with the territory.
But we hear the success stories. They come to us and they say, "Man, I signed the biggest contract in our business's history at Itad Summit 2023. There's no reason I'm not coming back," right? And it really, when you wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock and you're down there walking through the exhibit hall, making sure there's no trash on the floor or whatever, it's way bigger than that, and it's so rewarding. And I, for one, am grateful for the opportunity to work with you and be part of the shows. But also, I've really enjoyed our conversations about business and being successful. And, every time I see a WTB and WTS post come up, I think of Bob Lafon on LinkedIn. So, Bob, I appreciate your time. I know you're really busy at these things, and for you to take 15 minutes is very much appreciated, and look forward to hanging out a little more before we head home and see you again here in a couple months.
Oh, my pleasure. I've been enjoying getting to know you. I appreciate the opportunity to tell my story here, and look forward to seeing what we can do next to disrupt the space and help people realize their dreams.
Make the best show in the market, man. Here we come. All right.
Done.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob.